like the stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call and NVCOG down the list. Or
all right. To do that, I want you to do it.
Yeah, please do.
Sheila O'Malley, Jamie Gracie, Rob Brzezinski, Steve Sorty, Raymond Rogozinski, Mark Kemet, Dan Bombero, Megan Sloan, Mike Pisconeri, Jane Dunbar.
Jane is here.
I have Jane. Kevin Tedesco is virtual. Dan Norton, James Stewart.
he's on.
Virtual. I have him virtual. Dawn Passerine, Helen Moon, Wayne Watt, Karen Cook, Bob Pronovost, Bob Chatfield, Brian Mysteriak, virtual.
Here.
Thank you. Rims Bosses, Blake Leonard, Matthew Tarnowski, Glenn Clark.
Here.
Simpson.
Yeah, Glenn's here.
Virtual. Dave Simpson, Roy Kavanaugh, Gerald Lukowski,
Here.
Paul Klinovich,
Here.
Rich Lamotte, William Agresta, Ron Knoll,
Here.
Ron Hagan is on.
Here.
Mark Cosadento. That's it.
And Sheila should be calling in just a moment.
Next on the public comment. Anybody for public comment? If not, moving on, approval of meeting minutes from February 7th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Well, was there any discussions or transportation planning 2025, 2028 tip, Rich?
Yeah, so as a reminder, the Transportation Improvement Program is one of the federally mandated activities for metropolitan planning organizations. It's really the part of the reason MPOs exist. It gives local communities the control over how federal dollars get spent on transportation projects within our region. The TIP is a 4-year fiscally constrained document. Our 21 to 24 TIP is just about done. We'll be active through September 30th of this year. And so we are preparing and need to adopt the 2025 to 2028 TIP to cover the next 4-year period. As part of our public engagement around adoption of the new TIP, we're going to do just a quick presentation today, as well as an opportunity for public comment. And then we're going to ask that this board recommend adoption of the new TIP to the NVCOG board, or excuse me, to the CNV MPO board. And so Desiree, if you can go one slide forward.
Kevin's got it.
Kevin, thank you. Yeah, so there's a full draft, including narrative about the TIP, as well as the project listing for the TIP. It is available right now on the NVCOG website. For members of the GBV MPO, the TIP for your towns will be coming out shortly on the MetroCog website. We'll have a link to it from the NVCOG website as well. And as a reminder, those are Ansonia, Seymour, Shelton, and Derby for GBV MPO towns.
Not to cut you off, but that really was going to be my question, or not to get sidetracked. You used metro area and then you use MPO and obviously MV. Can you just spend a couple minutes and like how those pieces fit together?
Yeah. So the NVCOG is the 19-town region that, we are the staff of the NVCOG. The entity that exists is NVCOG. And we cover all 19 of our member towns who are represented here on TTAC.
And that's state designated.
And that is state designated, yes. We are then 1.5 metropolitan planning organizations, which is the federal designation. So the 15 northern towns in the NVCOG region are the members of the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO. The remaining 4 towns, Ansonia, Derby, Seymour, and Shelton, are members of the Greater Bridgeport and Valley MPO, along with the 6 towns that belong to the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments down in the Bridgeport area. Metropolitan planning organizations are ultimately made up based on the preferences of the chief elected officials of the member towns. And so in 2015, when the merger happened that created the NVCOG, there was not a vote to be able to merge the 4 Valley COG towns into the CNV MPO, which is why we still have this 1.5 MPO scenario here in the NVCOG region. And so what that means is for the federally mandated documents like the Transportation Improvement Program, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, we have to prepare one for the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, and then we work as staff in partnership with Connecticut MetroCog for the GBV MPO's documents. So everything we're talking about here relates only to the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, which is those 15 towns in the northern part of the region. Yeah, so for the Valley towns, your public engagement process and draft documents will be available coming up soon. And yeah, we'll share more about that when the time comes. But the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO has draft materials already on the NVCOG website, including a draft project list. This project list was developed over the course of about a year in partnership with the Department of Transportation. And so has what is expected to be spent for federal money over the course of the next 4 years. Most of it is recurring programs or administrative items. There is a short list of projects specific to our member towns, though. If you get one more, Kevin. So we have been in the middle of a robust public engagement process around this. Unfortunately, the TIP is something we have a hard time getting engagement on, but we've certainly been trying. So as I said, on the NVCOG website, we have a project page specific for the new TIP. This page can be accessed using this QR code. It is nvcogct.gov/projects/2528 TIP. On that page, you'll see there's information about the TIP, the process by which the new TIP is developed, a section for frequently asked questions, the type of things that come up regularly about how the TIP is developed, adopted, and amended. A breakdown of all of the ways that members of the communities can share their thoughts on it, and then all of the related documents, which includes the draft TIP, bridge and safety reports. It includes the full statewide transportation improvement program, which is the combination of all of the MPO's TIPs, as well as the air quality conformity determination report released back in February. And one more. We are also excited that we get to use our new Eco Interactive platform as part of this. So as of the start of this public comment period, we had the local projects were all uploaded into Eco Interactive, available for comment. We now have the entire new TIP is available online in the Eco Interactive portal, which is nvcog.ecointeractive.com. When you look at any one of the projects, you see in the top right corner, there's this add comment button. Those comments come directly to us, and we generate a report for the CNV MPO board, or we will generate a report for the CNV MPO board before they make any action on the new TIP. As of yet, we have received no comments. We have so far held a public meeting at which there were no attendees from the general public. We have held an opportunity at the last CNV MPO meeting. There's the opportunity to provide comments today, although we've received no request to be able to comment to this board. We'll be hosting an open office hours on the 11th from 11 to 12, an opportunity for anyone to call in and ask questions or provide comment. And then additional comments will be accepted before the CNV MPO acts on the new TIP on April 19th. We've also been accepting comments through the entire period via email to contact us at nvcogct.gov, by telephone to our main office number, or by written mail to address to me here in our office. And I believe if you go one more, Kevin. And so today we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for any additional public comment before this board, again, before we ask that this board endorse the draft and recommend adoption by the CNV MPO board.
So I guess just taking one comment, one item at a time, the first one being the draft, TIP. Just are there any questions or comments from committee members? If not, moving on, is there on the public comment? Is there any comment from the public?
Just to go back, would you like us to put this up on our town websites to help drive comment?
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Are there any, I don't know, noteworthy or large projects or, anything going on in the region that stands out?
There's a few things, the continuation of the projects associated with the new mix. A couple of, bridge replacement projects and preservation projects. Nothing particularly outstanding, but most of the things that we've already been talking about. The rail station projects are all included in there, which is what, 3 stations here in the CNV MPO.
And a couple that, in Bristol, the realignment of 6972 is included in the tip. The Middlebury, you have the reconstruction of interchange 17 is another big project.
And the replacement of the South Street Bridge in Middlebury.
Yep. So, and again, keep in mind, the tip is federally funded projects, and since the advent of the LOTSIP program, most of them are state asset related projects that we spend most of our local interest on getting using lots of money. So it's a little transitioned over time between document has a lot of local projects, the one that's mostly on state roads.
We are excited that this is the first time the TIP has more funding for transit than highway projects. And so we're seeing some real movement on the transit side of things.
Right.
I do have, if anybody is interested, a paper copy of the statewide transportation improvement program draft, as well as these are just the project listings for the CNV and PO TIP. They're very small and hard to read, and I apologize for that. But it's what it took to get a paper copy made.
And not to be, Bristol focused, but with respect to Bristol is, you mentioned, 6972, that's currently under construction. So I guess as a technicality, that probably wouldn't be in the current plan. But is the project to realign 72 through Brackett Park?
I think that's what actually I was thinking of, not the.
And then Middle Street improvements, actually the one, the ineffective report that the NVCOG had BL'd.
Yeah, and that one, the 229 project does not have a funding source identified, so it is not in the current TIP. The only project in this TIP as of right now is the CMAC project for Bristol, but the 72 realignment will likely get added through an amendment later on. So this is projects whose funding is committed and if there's a timeline established. A project like that one will, like I said, will likely be added through an amendment later on once the TIP is adopted. Yeah, and so at our monthly CNV MPO meeting, there's almost always amendments to the TIP. Generally, those are the addition of projects that are ready to move forward and have funding identified, or changing of schedule or budgets for projects that have already been accepted into the TIP.
So I guess the only projects that are listed are ones you're saying already have funding. So it's not necessarily like a long-term plan then.
No, this is just in the 4-year period, what is already has funding committed to it, and is scheduled and is ready to go.
Now, Rich, it looks like most of these, if not all these things are pretty generic sign replacements. Looks like it's pretty light on specific projects. Is that by intent?
Yeah, that's just the type of work that DOT is doing. It's the sign replacements, it's the basic maintenance stuff is the majority of the work that's happening. You'll see on page 2 of this, there's a small section called highway projects that are all under Region 5. Those are the specific projects occurring here within our towns. And again, I can pass copies of this down if anybody wants another one, but.
Well, the reason I ask is the DOT recently contacted us about adding another lane to the off-ramp for Huntington Avenue. Would that be the sort of thing that would be on here?
Eventually.
So once the project is kind of beyond the concept stage, once it has funding identified and a timeline established, it would likely get added into the TIP. But until a project is basically at that stage, it is going to be not on the tip.
So projects under design are in the tip,
As long as, if the
Not
design is happening with
necessarily.
federal money.
not necessarily just construction, it's
Mhm.
under design also.
And sometimes what will happen is they'll do a design under a more broad, generic type of a program. Then when they have a specific project, they'll do it as a breakout. Because I'm trying to remember federal regulations, if a project is over a certain cost estimate, it has to be broken out as a specific project. If it's under that, it can sort of, like you'll see on here too, bridge replacement or bridge rehabilitation program. There's a placeholder for this large sum of money. As those projects get defined and designed, they'll be broken out into a specific project number and show up on the tip. With actual, with specific money allocated to them.
I'm just curious, because there's like 8 or 10 early action projects for I-84 and Mix Master.
And it depends, if some of those can be handled under the overall generic umbrella project, it can't, but again, like the elimination of exit 21, that has a cost estimate that's high enough that it had to be broken out as a specific project and identified as a specific project. If there's minor things they can do under the project, they'll do that and won't have its own specific number.
Thank you.
So it is, it a little bit depends on what the ultimate cost is. And impact, if a project is gonna have, they feel is gonna have much greater impact, they'll break it out as a specific project so they can, generate some comment and be more transparent.
Yeah, so right now of the early action items that are in the tip already, it's the exit 21 removal and the exit 17 and 18 auxiliary lane. Other items will get added in as federal funds get allocated to those projects and they move forward.
Okay.
And again, something like Huntington, I think is still far enough in the future, it won't show up on the tip until they better define exactly what they want to do.
And the tip doesn't get updated each year, it's 4-year cycles.
Yeah, so the full tip document is a 4-year cycle. However, we make amendments to it regularly.
Okay.
We'll endorse the new tip in April or May.
April.
And I'm sure in May we'll have an amendment to it.
It will likely be amended before it takes effect.
Yeah.
And it is
Well, actually, I take that back, because we will endorse it in April. It then has to go to Federal Highway for their review, and that takes a couple months.
Yeah.
The real key date is it has to be in place by October 1st. So that's the start of the new federal fiscal year.
And then, in November, there'll be amendments already.
Any other questions or comments? If not, there's a recommendation to adopt. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on, February 2024 air quality, conformity determination, Rich?
Yeah, so under the Clean Air Act, we are in Connecticut identified as several non-attainment or maintenance areas. Here in the NVCOG region, we are all 3 of those. And so because of the interconnectedness of MPOs in Connecticut and our tight geography, CTDOT does modeling, air quality modeling for the entire state. We are required to model that any proposed projects or actions do not make our air quality non-attainment areas worse. And so Kevin, if you go forward, you'll see here, this is the map of our non-attainment areas. The dark green and the northern and eastern part of the state is the greater Connecticut ozone non-attainment area. The light green is the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut ozone non-attainment area. And the cross-hatching in New Haven and Fairfield counties is the PM 2.5 maintenance area, which means we've hit the target, but we need to show that we are maintaining that target. And so CONDOT will model all of the projects that are in the new TIP, any amendments that have been made to the TIP, as well as all of the projects identified in the region's long-term plan, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, to show that we are projected to release fewer emissions that contribute to these non-attainment areas than we are allowed under the EPA budget. If you go forward, Kevin, So you'll see here, these are the component elements of ground level ozone. Over the course of the modeled, over the course of the modeling on these projects, which includes everything in this TIP, everything in the long range plan, and everything in the current TIP as amended as of February, we end up performing well below the EPA budgets for us for the Greater Connecticut non-attainment area for ozone, as well as for the go forward one. For the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut ozone non-attainment area. And then as well, we continue to stay well below the EPA allowed limits for the PM 2.5 maintenance area. And so the new conformity report was released in February. We again have to adopt as part of the TIP adoption. And so we're happy to take questions or help explain a little further.
Any questions or comments? There's a public comment, formal public comment period, comment section. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment? If not, there's a recommended motion to adopt a February 2024 air quality. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, LOTSIP, financial plan update, Rich?
Yeah, so just a quick update for everyone. We are still aggressively moving forward through the program. We have about 135 million total working through the phases of projects. We are on track to be the first region to spend all of our allocation, which is excellent. We're hopeful that being able to demonstrate the demand for the program and the impact that it's having on our towns is a good way for us to support the DOT and their ask for additional funds for the program.
What is our allocation?
We get just about 10 million a year.
And this is just, I don't know if you know this, but the other, you're saying we're close to spending all of it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the norm? 50% of it?
It varies.
It varies a lot. Yeah. So we are the closest to actually spending all of it. We are also among the only ones who have fully allocated it to projects.
You.
Similarly allocated most of their funding to projects, but has spent significantly less than us. And then other regions are getting closer to fully allocating their funds. But some regions have spent as little as 30 or 40% of theirs. And others, I would say if you had to kind of average them out, it's probably somewhere in the 70% range. Which presents a challenge in that when the legislature takes a look at this, they see a bunch of approved bonding that hasn't been spent.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it difficult for them to understand the value of the program. And so this is part of why the department has been pushing so hard to get the other regions to actually program and spend their funding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other piece too is, we're in an old state with old roads and we have a lot of infrastructure needs. And so to not be spending this money when there's clearly the need for it is a real miss.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And part of it was when the program first started, it took almost 5 years for everybody to sort of really just ramp up and understand what was going on. And I think some regions are still in that catch-up mode, where we tried to be aggressive from day one. And because we have an open solicitation, some regions will do a solicitation once a year or once every 2 years. And they tend not to ask for new projects until, they have some of the ones that they've already approved under design or constructed. We try to remain, because our experience is that delays always happen to something. So it's always better to have projects in the pipeline, ready to go, in the works, so that, because we've been over-programmed from almost day one, and we haven't come up on, where we don't have enough money to do a project when it comes ready to go to construction. We're getting real close to that, but it's a 10-year-old program, and we're just now getting to that point. So I think we're, demonstrating that our aggressiveness was successful.
Yeah,
But
some of the
other
other regions
regions
also
are
do
a lot
stuff like
less.
limit the dollar amount on projects or the number of projects or do some kind of a fair share allocation. And all of it slows down their implementation
Yeah,
of the
but,
program.
and yeah,
quite
the fair
dramatically.
share sub-allocation is the one that was really difficult for regions to deal with, because it's like, you know, you just, you know, how do you do that, you know, so we just, you know, let's just try to get projects in, you know, look at good projects and, you know, get things done, and I think that's, you know, we've been successful with that.
Yeah, and so to that point, here's our anticipated available remaining funds. So this takes into account everything that has been everything that's been programmed already. And so you see, once we get to 25, we start to get to that over-programmed stance. We're not concerned about this at this point. You know, we think between additional funding over time, plus delays in projects, plus other sources taking over projects, you know, again, experience says we're probably not in a particularly bad spot here. But it does lead to the next, what I believe is the next item on the agenda.
No, it's coming up in a couple of.
Oh, I thought we had timed it specifically this way.
No, we're gonna talk about 2 new projects before we.
Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about 2 new projects, then we'll come back to this.
But if there's any questions on the current
Yeah.
status, let us know.
If not, a Constitution Boulevard West extension.
Okay, I'm gonna give a real brief introduction to the project, and we have Ron Knoll from AECOM. Excuse me, it looks
Not yet.
Carl and Dow.
They haven't bought everyone yet.
Sorry about that. I had some other project on my mind, I guess. Anyway, we have Ron from Luke's de Carl and Dahl, who's the engineer for the project. Basically, this is kind of an interesting project. It's the idea of the project is to extend Constitution Boulevard from Bridgeport Avenue out to Route 108 to continue the arterial that, you know, they built many years ago from Route 110, Bridgeport Avenue. And it sort of serves as the main commercial office park corridor. The city has been trying to build access to the green parcel called the Mass property to accommodate some new development opportunities. And they had gotten some state funding to do the phase 1. And this is where sort of we came in, we got involved, is the city needed money to do the next couple of phases, and they were trying to fast track the phase 2. So the phase 2 was brought directly to the board after a TTAC meeting was already held. So the mayor had brought the project up and asked the board to approve phase 2 under LOTSIP so that he could, you know, sort of immediately get the thing pushed, get moving. They have a tenant ready to go into that space. After the board had approved phase 2, Rich and I had talked to DOT, and they were concerned about the you know, just doing a phase that really wasn't going anywhere. And so what they recommended us is that, no, we look at, you know, the 3rd phase as well at the same time, so that they had some understanding or certainty that the whole project would go forward. So now we're bringing the phase 3 concept to the TTAC first, you know, and then we'll bring it to the board for their consideration. Ron, would you like to go through a little bit more about the whole project, or?
Certainly. And so thank you, Mark. Ron Knoll from Luke's de Carl and Dahl. And just for clarification, this project's been on the city's drawing board, so to speak, for 30+ years. It shows in their city plan of development, and phase 3 particularly has been set aside. When they built adjacent condominiums, they required the condos to set aside rights away, and actually even blasted some of the clearing through there, ready to make phase 3 a reality. And phase 3 would be the last linchpin, as Mark said, in connecting a major east-west route through Shelton and reduce or remove the heavy traffic that now uses an old New England road called Nels Rock Road, and direct that traffic onto a new modern engineered roadway, 2-lane with pavement structure to support, truck and vehicle traffic, modern stormwater collection systems, treatment, grass swales, et cetera. And also the benefit of a full utility corridor, which has been a major interest to all the utilities involved, to enable them to connect and loop their systems for redundancy and safety, electric, gas, et cetera, from Bridgeport Avenue to Shelton Avenue through that route. As Mark said, phase one is under construction, expected for a 2024 completion at the end of this construction season. And that was the hardest part. It's a 30-foot rock cut to get from Bridgeport Avenue up to the Moss property grade. Phase two has already been approved by your board as a lots of application, I guess, pending. And we're here to request the phase three additional funding to finish the project, I guess is the best way to say it. And it has very little wetland impacts. Phase two has already received all of its municipal wetlands impacts. We configured the roadway to avoid wetlands to the point that we didn't even need an Army Corps wetlands permit. The total wetlands impacts are under 5,000 square feet. So with additional funding, phase three design would be potentially occurring in the year 2025, and we estimate a 2-year construction schedule for the completion of phase three.
If I may, and Mark touched on this, but we have to send both of these projects to DOT together. And that's why,
For them to
that's
consider.
why they're asking for phase three at this point in time. Even though it's gonna be phased out a little bit, you know, they're not gonna be happening at the same time, but they have to go to DOT together for approval because DOT does not want to see a phase two that doesn't
Have a phase
have a
three.
phase three to connect to the other end.
Any questions, comments?
So phase two is designed and permitted.
Correct, yes.
Phase three is
Drawing board only,
conceptual.
conceptual.
What's the current roadway classification?
It's a urban minor arterial.
Is that gonna change?
No.
So that's why we need the phase three. Phase two would end up being local, but with phase three, the whole thing becomes the minor arterial.
Right.
So it's currently local or arterial then?
Well, it's currently not
Anything,
there, so
because
it's
it's a
not,
new
yeah.
road.
Once,
Right, no, okay.
once phases 2 and 3 are both committed to fund, then the whole thing is classified as a minor arterial.
So we have to go through the process of getting that classified as a minor arterial. And again, that's sort of the issue. Without the phase three, you know, we can't get phase two classified as a minor arterial.
Back to logical terminus,
Yeah, and it would technically not be eligible under lots that, because it's, you know, locals aren't, you know, so that's why DOT wants us to do both at the same time. Not construct, but I mean, get the applications in at the same time, so they have a better understanding of the entire project and better certainty that the whole project will be built. So they don't want to fund, that phase two and then have it just sit there and not going anywhere. So,
yeah, been there, done that.
yeah, so that's why we're now considering this phase three to package them together.
That's also why phase one wasn't done as part of lots.
Right.
Right. So we're looking at a new road. We're looking at, is there streetscape elements? Is this part of an active tip right now?
Oh, the active transportation.
Right.
Ron, maybe you can address that. I mean, I'm assuming there would be sidewalks available or built as part of this.
There's in the cross section that's being constructed now, there's a 30-foot pavement with wide snow shelf and then grass swales before we started our rock cut. So there's room for sidewalks. There's not sidewalks being constructed in phase one.
This part of a bike corridor?
It's not part of any planned bike corridor, now.
Could it be? Should it be? I know Aaron's answer to that.
I think it could be, whether it should be, I don't know if we've gone to that kind of study yet to know how we connect everything else. I mean, just sort of high level thinking, it's a nice connecting corridor between 110 over by the river and 108. I mean, it would be ideal for a connecting bike facility.
I think that's.
Whether it would be feasible or not because of some of the grades that might be along those roads. I think parts of Constitution Boulevard will have steeper grades.
Existing Constitution Boulevard
Yeah.
South is
Yeah.
pretty intense.
That doesn't prohibit anything because, get better exercise when you go uphill, right?
Mark can ride up, the rest of us will all just ride down.
But if it's something we could look at, going
Correct me
forward,
if
but
I'm
right,
wrong, I thought bicycle paths were part of the lots of analysis.
a needs assessment, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know if we haven't gotten the full application yet, so that would be something that would be included as part of the application, right?
Right, have you guys looked at that?
We have not, the city hasn't endorsed that aspect. As part of the full lots of application, as you said, we'll be required to do that, and so
Right,
we'll have to get the city's view on that as well. Their primary interest was to, as Mark said, open up the Moss property for development and then continue phase 3 as the east-west corridor to relieve, to bring the White Hills section of Shelton, this Shelton Avenue area, better access to Route 8.
this project in conformance with OPM's open space?
It's been on the plan of conservation and development of the city for forever, for a long time. So whether that inherently makes it consistent, I don't know.
That's kind of a big thing, isn't
So the OPM open space, I'll ask the question.
It's not currently in their inventory, the open space inventory. It's classified as undeveloped land.
Yeah, I think it's
So
been planned
does-
for development for many years.
it? So I guess the question is, does it conform?
There is a significant portion of the Moss property that has been set aside for open space as part of their internal approval of the subdivision of the Moss property. But that's separate from a bigger picture open space plan.
In my experience, they generally don't like bringing utilities into designated open space because it opens up for development. I guess that's where I'm going with this question.
I'll certainly ask about the OPM open space requirements. This site has been planned for development for a long time, and the road continuation has been planned for a long time. Other open space needs within the city were not part of our engineering challenge. We would need city planning horsepower on that. Which I'm not here, I'm here to represent the city in the roadway design. If, I could elicit that response from the city, from their planning department and check into that, but that's, I was here to just talk about the phase 2 and 3.
I just have reservations about endorsing a project that doesn't conform with OPM.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this was gonna be an issue, that the project the development of this site has been planned for a long time.
And the Moss property has been identified as a prime development site, not, what's the other classification, Aaron?
I don't know. And I don't know if it's like a conservation priority.
Yeah, or,
And the right of way is in the parcels for the longest time.
Yeah.
It's already been established.
on the west side, where the area of Shelton where the phase 3 is going through is, that's not gonna be, this road won't trigger development there because it's already kind of developed as residential, will remain as such. the development parcel is the green area that's already been identified as for development in the local plan, like Brian was saying, for a lot of years. So OPM's conservation plan would show this as development potential, because the state plan has to sort of be in conformity or be consistent with the local plan. So, I don't recall exactly, but I'd be very surprised if the state plan doesn't show this as future development.
And phase one, which provides the initial access to the site, was paid for through state dollars.
Yeah.
And I would assume that this has been on the books since they brought in Route 8, from the old Bridgeport Avenue, probably from the 70s and 80s. Because they started Constitution on the other side, you don't see it to the bottom right, and they started it up on the top left too. So, I mean, they've been talking about this for about 40 to 50 years.
And what do you think the opportunity is for sidewalks?
Just at the cross section, the template used for their design is a pretty wide cross section. So we've got pavement, snow shelf, grass swales on both sides, and then the rock cut.
And are there these streetscape elements incorporated?
So it is a better than, just by way of the virtue of the corridor. We've got from the edge of pavement to the start of the rock cut is on the order of 15 feet of grassed area with grass swales. So we have stormwater measures, both collection and treatment, that are part of the landscape, I guess I would say, rather than hard structures, Vortechnics, stormwater treatment. We're using the kind of the lid approved soft features of vegetated areas.
You keep referring to the rock cut. How much of that is in phase 2?
Not
Percentage-wise.
quite a bit less. I mean, just at the very start of phase 2, where phase 1 ends, but then we can kind of see some of the contours, but probably 150 feet in, we're at grade in phase 2. It was really a battle to get up the mountain, and we're almost there with phase 1. Right.
So you're representing 150 feet of the entire thing was being streetscaped? If I understood you?
No, I mean, the full roadway cross-section will carry through the other areas as well. The rock cut was specifically designed to not have rock right at the edge of pavement through the rock cut area, but that same cross-section will carry through. We'll still have grass swales and things.
And not to speak for the city, because I know they've got their own plans going on, but part of the concept here from the original development of this was that this helps prevent some of the traffic that currently goes through downtown Shelton, connecting between 108 and 110. And so that can bring those type of elements that you're asking about into a place where they're likely to be more beneficial. Howe Avenue right through the middle of downtown Shelton is very high volume for being a downtown street, and downtown Shelton is growing pretty quickly, especially in pedestrian volume. And so I believe there was just I forget which program it was, but the city just applied for some 110 improvements on Howe Avenue downtown, and helping to remove some of the traffic from the downtown area to this, which is going to be more of an industrial and commercial type area. Will help make downtown Shelton a more walkable, safe place for pedestrians where they're more likely to be.
There any traffic lights proposed?
Major improvements to the signal at Bridgeport Avenue. And we haven't gotten that far on Shelton Avenue, but nothing within the phase 1, 2, or 3 corridor. No signals needed.
Well, we're
Is
talking
there a
about.
signal there now on
Yeah.
Shelton Avenue?
Yes.
Shelton Avenue?
No.
Yes.
108?
The 108, no.
On Nels Rock, we're going to be taking over the Nels Rock intersection where it intersects 108 with this better roadway. And then you can see where Nels Rock will still be connected off of the new road once constructed. And just to, someone brought up a good point to allay Roy's fears.
But there's a signal there already.
There is. The Moss property was purchased by the city of Shelton out of bankruptcy. That was already a big approved subdivision by City Trust, I think was the entity that they purchased it from some 25, 20 years ago. So this property has always been slated and approved for development within the city. It was never an open space parcel that's now being developed.
So
Right.
right now, phase two is about $3 million and seems like you got a lot of utilities going through a rock cut, which means you're gonna be blasting rock to get there.
We already did that in phase one.
So that's
We
done.
over
That
blasted.
cost is not included in this.
No.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I guess just from my perspective, with respect to a, scope of work that pertains to like, streetscape, I do believe that based on the information presented, honestly, I think streetscapes are better served in, other roads than a connector. I'm not gonna argue that a potential streetscape doesn't have benefit everywhere, but honestly, based on the previous, presentation, there's finite amount of resources, and honestly, I would support streetscapes in downtown areas before I, support streetscapes, like this, so I'm comfortable with the scope, as presented. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Is there a motion?
No, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion
I think
is
it's a
made and
good
seconded.
project.
Thanks, Sheila.
Yep, just wanted to say I think it needs to go through. So,
Any other comments? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. West Extension, phase 3.
No, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we just
yeah.
did.
Okay. Seymour, Avenue, safety improvements.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So this is a project located around Griffin Hospital in Derby. There are 3 different components, there are 3 different sections of the project. They're all focused on improve sidewalks and improving the roadway around this area because the roadway is not in the best of shape. So the first section is near the intersection of Route 8. This is along Division Street near Chatfield Street and Silver Hill Road. This section of road will be getting a reconstruction. Again, the pavement is not in great shape. Improved sidewalks. The intersection of Silver Hill Road and Division Street will be teed up for improved safety. Better sidewalk access going along the road and underneath Route 8 with improved lighting. We have Seymour Avenue in front of Griffin Hospital itself from Division Street south. This will also get a roadway reconstruction. The gaps in the sidewalk network at this location, so those will be filled in. There are 2 mid-block crossings being proposed with RFBs, again, to improve safety of the crossing to and from the hospital in particular. And then the third section is the intersection of Division Street and Maple Avenue. This is going to be assessed for a signal warrant during the course of the project, which is currently ongoing. And there'll be also some small geometric improvements to the intersection as well. And I have Ron DeGun here, has joined us in the TTAC meeting. Ron, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the project?
No, thank you for considering the project. It is primarily a pedestrian safety improvement project. And there's a lot of pedestrian traffic there generated by the hospital. And it's been in the plans for the city of Derby to improve the sidewalks along there. And this is a great opportunity to do so.
And I'm sorry, you said this includes a mid-block crosswalk?
2 crossings along Seymour Avenue that are in between intersections.
Yep.
Yes, you can kind of see in the picture, across from the hospital, there's a sizable parking lot that is used primarily by hospital staff, but also visitors. And so that is one of the proposed locations to help get staff safely from their parking lot to the building. Most of these improvements actually were brought about by the route hospital staff takes when parking to get into work daily. So that lot at the end of the project on the left side of the picture is also parking for hospital staff.
Where you have mid-block crosswalks, what's the traffic generation? What's the average daily traffic?
I don't have that in front of me, but it is significant. They just to add that the crosswalk on the left side also services the cancer center. There's a lot of traffic of visitors and staff that goes between those two traffic generators. One, the main hospital building, the other one, the cancer center. The traffic along Seymour Avenue is heavy. I don't have the numbers at the fingertips here, but there's been a lot of close calls, not thankfully, no fatal accidents, but it is definitely an improvement, a safety improvement that's very much needed.
The crosswalks, are you looking at speed humps, you're looking at bump outs for parking and other pedestrian enhancements?
I believe the design has bump outs currently, but of course, any other amenities such as speed humps or the crosswalks can be investigated during design.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to put bump outs because of the limited width that's available. We don't want to widen the street. Rather, we're more focusing on the sidewalks. Some of them don't even have curbs in front of the sidewalks. So that's really the focus.
You referred to a lot of near misses. Are there a lot, excuse me, is there a history of pedestrian accidents in this area?
None that stand out. No, it is thankfully been only near misses that which are not recorded. We just from talking to the staff there.
Any questions or concerns from committee members? Is there a motion to come forth to the committee? Motion. Is there a motion been made? Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Aye. Just a side note, I just asked a question about mid-block, not necessarily when we come to this project, but in a future meeting, could NVCOG do a little presentation on, like, mid-block crosswalks? Because honestly, I'm sure like a lot of communities, we get asked for it a lot. I would love to find out what the correlation is between, traffic and a, mid-block, crosswalks, and kind of like a, based on the traffic and the, estimated pedestrians, what is the best practice, in various, options in general. We don't like mid-block crosswalks, they take a lot for us to, approve a mid-block crosswalk, but if NVCOG, at a subsequent meeting, absent a specific project, just a brief presentation on mid-block crosswalks, that would be at least helpful to make.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to.
Moving on, the project closeout.
Yeah.
And presumably that's me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think there's one more thing.
Right. Rich was gonna talk about
Sorry.
project constraint.
Yes, so this is what I thought I was going to go right into before. So as you can see from that chart, we are expecting within the next couple of years to hit the point where we have fully allocated lots of funds. And when that happens, there's a chance that new projects will not be able to get built as soon as they're ready, the way that we've been operating now. And so before we get to that point, we want to put some guidelines in place so that we can give towns good estimates as to when we expect their project to be able to be built, as well as so that we're not arbitrarily moving projects forward, but we have at least some kind of a process in place. And so we've been discussing, we think the appropriate pathway to do this is to have TTAC establish a subcommittee to make some recommendations, have the full TTAC then endorse those recommendations, and then have the full NVCOG board vote to accept those formally. And so today what we wanted to ask for was effectively a motion to establish a subcommittee that would be made up partly of staff, of NVCOG staff, partly of TTAC members, to develop some of those initial recommendations as to how we move projects forward when we get to that fiscal constrained position. The one thing that's not written in the motion here that I think is worth adding in would be allowing Ray to appoint members of TTAC to serve on this subcommittee. to help speed the process up so we can ideally get something together before the next TTAC meeting.
Based on your experience over 10 years, have you got feeling what kind of recommendations or guidelines you're gonna be recommended or looking for, just to give a flavor for?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see what everybody thinks makes the most sense. We have been operating up until this point on basically the first complete design is the one that gets to go. I don't imagine we will drastically leave that, leave that model. I think, the best case is to have projects sit for the least amount of time possible between a full design set and construction. But we've also, we've been able to do some things like address relatively urgent scenarios. Thinking of like Burton Road and Beacon Falls, where the roadway was closed, and so that one was able to go right away and reopen a pretty critical connection. And so we just want to make sure we're considering those items, in whatever process we come up with, that if we're dealing with a scenario like that there's something to at least consider that. And if the answer is we only want to move projects forward in the order that they're ready, that is okay. But, we want to at least take a look at it and make sure we're thinking all the potential scenarios through before we make a recommendation.
So for me personally, I do support, a committee. I do think that they don't want to predetermine what the committee is going to do. That's the whole purpose, of the committee. But just big picture wise, at least from my perspective as one individual, and honestly, I like to serve on the committee. Also is to a certain extent, TTAC has already done that. I would assume any project with safety improvements will take a high be rated as a higher priority. All things equal, and quite frankly, like issues with bridges, would have, a lower priority, and that's kind of already been, decided through TTAC because of potential for supplemental, funding.
Exactly. Yeah, so this just kind of formalizes the process we've been following. We just hadn't had to make those decisions yet.
But to answer Roy's one question, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is, do we put a cap on the cost of the project? Right now, we don't, we just, we allocate the money that is sort of needed to do a project. Going forward, do we sort of do put a cap on it? Okay, we're gonna look for nothing over, a project that's over $6 million. I'm just throwing that out. That's not even kind of anything above and beyond the town might have to consider doing, or they have to reduce the scope or something like that. That's something that, my first thought is something that the committee needs to think about. Whether that be a good thing or not, I don't know. I mean,
I think
it's something like that. Those are the kinds of things that we want the advice of the committee members on.
Has the full board expressed any questions, comments, or concerns about the way
No,
we're operating the last 10 years?
no. Other than, I think they very, they're very supportive of the way we have them because we have been successful getting projects. I think it's your, not to point at you exactly, but your responsibility to sort of advise the mayors and first selectmen on going forward. No, they have not expressed, oh geez, we're getting close to this thing, what are we gonna do? It's more, I think it's something that we're trying to get ahead of. As Rich mentioned, looking forward, we could have running a deficit in a couple of years. So it's just something we want to get ahead of. But again, I think that's it's sort of your job to advise our mayors.
So just once again, not to preempt what the committee would do, I probably do support some kind of cap, but I would say that that cap in my mind would be high.
Yeah.
Really just to kind of, communicate to decision makers, at the municipal level, myself included, about like what should go into LASSP and what, shouldn't. Not just because he walks, out of the room, but, if I was to list priorities, I probably would, once again, in my mind, list like existing roadway safety, as, is one of the highest. I probably would even rate improvements to existing roads higher than, like, for example, phase 3 in Shelton for a road that doesn't, even exist yet. So, but that's would be the work of the committee.
Right, and that's what I think we're looking for. Because we as staff don't want to make those recommendations. I think it's better, comes from you guys.
Exactly.
Is there any other guidelines from any other COGs or the federal and
Um,
state government?
So,
We have guidelines, we can look at.
yeah,
those.
the other COGs all operate very differently. We're the only ones who maintain an open solicitation, and so none of the other COGs have gotten to a point where they prioritize projects that have already been accepted through a solicitation. Many of the other COGs do have project caps. They tend to be small. Some of them are as small as 3 million. And so that, you know, it both contributes to their underutilization of the program, but also it limits what the towns are able to do. And so, you know, I don't think we would want to see something like that. We've gotten some really good projects for $8, $9, $10 million that need to happen.
And wouldn't have gotten done otherwise.
Exactly, right. So, but yeah, we can compile a list of the way the other COGs prioritize projects prior to the committee's first meeting.
From where my opinion, because we have been successful in spending the money, I think the critical point will come when 2 projects are ready to go construction in one given year, but there's only enough for one of them. And that's when the decisions have to be made. I wouldn't personally be in favor of making a decision as to whether a project should be accepted into the program or a cap, because so many projects get delayed and sometimes it's for years. So the critical point is when they're both ready to go construction, and then a decision has to be made. I think you start making decisions at the beginning, we might end up like the other regions where now nothing's ready to go to construction because we've put the limitations on what can come into the program, how much we can spend. I mean, I think it's best to just focus on, you know, I mean, we can certainly, obviously, you know, we'll have a committee and talk about it, but I don't want to start
I personally
shooting
agree.
ourselves in the
Yeah,
foot.
I personally agree conceptually, you know, maybe except for like what the cap, you know, would be. Once again, to my mind, I would set the cap high, so it's not particularly restrictive, but it is communicative to municipalities as far as what's appropriate for, you know, a lot set project, yeah. If
Yeah,
someone
and-
wants to come in with a $20 million project, it shouldn't be, you know, and, you know, shouldn't be a lot set project, yeah.
Mhm.
If the committee decides that. Any questions or comments?
Well, I guess, I mean, Rich, should we try to get some suggested, volunteers now? Or were you hoping to?
Yeah, I think getting a first committee meeting together before the next TTAC meeting would be helpful. And so,
Ray, yes, he'd like to serve on the committee. Is there anybody else who would like to?
I nominate Paul.
Roy, you sitting there? All your experience.
No, we don't want Roy.
Too many questions. Should the chair ask me?
No. Yeah, I'll ask.
Well, we need at least 3, I would
Yeah,
say.
yes. Is there any questions, comments? Is there a motion to come forth?
Do we want to talk about, we talked a little bit about the composition committee being staff members. We want to establish what the size would be. You know, that sort of operating parameters, or we just gonna figure that out at the first?
I would just, you know, figure out, there should be a minimum of 3. It seems like we would have a minimum of 3. Yeah.
You're comfortable with 3?
Yeah, 3, 5, you know, there's interest after the meeting, want to contact us.
and then we would likely put 3 staff members forward.
Ready for motion?
Yes, is there a motion to come forth?
Thanks, Jim.
Motion.
Is there any comments, questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, project closeout.
Yeah, so we've been keeping this on the agenda. So far, we haven't gotten much or anything as far as very minimal as far as project closeout. I did send out a memo to everyone, this has to be 6 months ago at least, with the explanation of what needs to be done for project closeout. I don't know if it'd be helpful for me to resend that, or do you guys have other suggestions on how we can help you get to this point?
So my suggestion would be to resend it,
Resend it.
ultimately, and I even put, Bristol in this category, maybe reach out for us, explicitly. I can tell you a hypothetical question, if there is one community out there that did a lots of project, probably one of the first ones for like 240,000, it's so long ago that we don't have a copy of the invoices and some of the documents that they are on your list, then what?
I don't know.
Like that problem is fine, as bad as it is, that problem potentially, doesn't harm the city right now because we would just sit there. But it does harm, the region,
Yeah, the one working.
Right, it's not a problem until you go to close out.
Well, I would say all we can do is have you submit what you do have, and then we send it to DOT and
Because the direction we've gotten from the DOT is they're not looking to do, a full-on audit of a project. They're not gonna scrutinize everything that you spent money on. It's gonna be a little bit more of a higher level, so hopefully you have enough records to justify, this is what we, how much money came in, this is what we spent on, this is the difference, and then go from there. And like
At this point, would you be looking for like a general ledger report?
that was
I
one
get-
of them, they were
yeah.
looking for specific
I
invoices, and in all
meant to
fairness, as
print
much.
it out this morning, but I didn't get a chance to, but I have a memo that lays it all out, and it's all in the lots of guidelines as well, but I cut out the, the part about,
Yeah, so
closeout.
we're hoping that we're going to be able to use some of our financial administration staff here to work with you all directly on closing out existing projects. Putting together the requirements, gathering whatever documents we have, and assisting in whatever way we can to try and make it as easy a process for all of you as it can be. Just there's a good amount of money out there right now. It's a pain for you to all have to carry that money and all the records. And then obviously it's for the region, having that money back in the program is pretty critical. So.
And you can see from our fiscal constraint issue coming forward, we need that money back into the program. I mean,
Do you have a list of specific projects in mind you're looking to close out?
yeah, all of them. We did what, 19, 16?
Yeah, anything that is completed at this point, so the 19 finished projects. And so, again, as we figure out what our financial and admin staff can do, we'll start reaching out on those directly, probably working from the oldest forward.
I apologize, but I don't even know this, like, this works where we even have the money. Correct? Like, if we have a completed project, the money is sitting there.
Yes.
There in our account.
Yeah, better be.
Yeah, no, it is. So like,
Yeah.
honestly, we would, once again, this hypothetical community, be more apt to give you back the money than give you something we don't have, which is
Right.
a copy of all the invoices,
Yeah. No, and that's why we want to get this stuff underway. Ideally, a project is finished and within the course of no more than maybe 6 to 12 months, the audit is finished and the project's closed out, and then the towns don't have to worry about it anymore. The problem was, for the first 10 years of the program, the department didn't really have a process in place or have any communication to us about how we did this. And so obviously the old projects are.
Do you have a list of those 19 projects?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll send out the memo again that details what has to be done. Would it be helpful if you guys let us know who at the municipality is going to be the person kind of handling it? If it's not you directly, then tell us who it is and maybe we can start pinging them.
Or try to arrange a meeting, ask for a meeting with.
However-
One-on-one.
Yeah. Just trying to figure out how to get things in motion the best way possible.
I don't think the chief elected official or whatever, let them work it out.
Really? I was thinking.
No, it's the fiscal office has a lot of responsibility too, just not in public works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
well,
what I was leaning toward.
we can
For
start
personal,
with,
Mr. Bristol, you can send it to Phil, contact at the project.
yeah, we can, as each project, or as we work with each town, we can figure out what makes sense for that town.
But again, I think we're available for, you know, meet with whoever to go over and figure out how the best way you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like hypothetically, the program's been around for 10 years. If you're in place for 3 years, you've got no idea what happened 7 or 8 years ago. You don't even know what the project was 7 or 8 years.
Well, and maybe we can send out individual,
Yeah.
emails to each town and we'll list the completed projects.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you've got nothing to worry about, right?
Oh, I'm all set there, forget about it.
You haven't completed anything yet.
East Main Street, that's it.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if you identify them specifically, so.
right, right.
Next item, active transportation
Yes, sir.
micro grant.
Yes. Morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will be discussing over the next few minutes about Conduct's active transportation micro grant program. As we know, active transportation entails transportation from one point to another by either walking, by either biking, or by rolling. So in the last quarter, Conduct came out with this micro grant program to eligible entities, which include schools, school districts, nonprofits, and municipalities to apply for these micro grants, which total $5,000, not more than $5,000, for specific activities, which include the purchase of bicycle helmets and locks, bicycle maintenance training and materials, bicycle fleets, league cycling instructors training, and the sponsoring of program events and materials for bicycles and pedestrian safety education, and the purchase of safety vests. There's a total sum of $500,000 in this program, and it's by open solicitation. Applicants are encouraged to submit their applications to the COGS, which will collate and send to DOT. It is expected that the first round, which closed last Thursday, will be funded by the end of the school year so that projects can continue over the summer. So we are using this opportunity to ask you to encourage both your municipalities, schools, school districts, and nonprofits in your regions to apply for these micro grants. These are opportunities to put in quick win structures in place or programs which will encourage more people to either cycle or walk within our region. For the round of applications that closed last Thursday, we had 4 from this region, totaling a little above $19,000. I understand that statewide, the applications are about 130,000. And we have $500 million, so we still have much to go. So I'd like to encourage you to prevail on schools, school districts, nonprofits to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I would also encourage you to think about your Parks and Recs department, sharing information with them as well. Not to say that we want our region to be greedy or get the best, but if it is statewide, we do want to take advantage where we can.
It's not sub-allocated by region, so.
Yeah, so
The more we put in the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, by the same token, if we have like, that bike path, we, talk about what we're going out for RFP right now for design services. That's too big of a project for this.
Yeah, this is really meant more for materials. The only infrastructure related item that is technically eligible is bike racks. But this is great for, your school districts to get a fleet of bikes to do safety courses, to your library to get, helmets and bike locks to give away as prizes for something. It's really a training and equipment program.
Okay. Thanks for the information. Any questions, comments, or?
Is the $5,000 limit like per entity, district, not per town, it's for whoever.
No, per
applies, right?
applicant.
You can have 6 whatever from a town, in theory, apply for.
Correct.
They very specifically call out schools and school districts as separate entities, so every school can apply, and the school district as an entity can apply, nonprofits can all apply. They don't specify towns as one entity, so a parks department can apply in addition to a public works or.
Yeah.
And every entity is eligible for up to 2 awards per year.
So hypothetically, if the police department had a bike radio, bike rodeo with a school, that'd be 2 different organizations?
Absolutely, yep. Could be 3 if the PTA is incorporated as 501.
Any additional comments? Questions? If not, Safe Streets for All.
Yeah, just a quick reminder, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program is open. And all of our member towns are eligible for both planning and implementation grants because of the regional safety action plan. Any implementation grants are due on May 16th, that is the second round for planning, and there's a third planning round that is open until the end of August. We're happy to help if any towns are interested in applying for anything.
Any questions? Comments? If not, just working down transportation alternatives.
Okay, very briefly, the transportation alternative set aside program is open. This is funding from USDOT for, non-traditional transportation projects, primarily bike trails, sidewalks, a bunch of other things that, usually you don't think of as being a, movement of vehicles. NVCOG is got to coordinate with MetroCog, WestCog, Capital Region, and South Central, because the funding is sub-allocated by urban area, and our region happens to be part of 4 urban areas. So, and so we have to sort of work with the Bridgeport, Stamford urban area, Hartford urban area, and Haven, as well as Waterbury. We need to, we sent out the notice last week, I think it was. We want to get, proposal ideas by April 26th. So, because we have to evaluate and rank, and like I said, working with the other regions, we have to sort of come up with a combined list, and we have to submit applications to conduct by the 28th of June. So, if you have any ideas for, these types of projects, like I said, primarily the multi-use trail type of projects that we've been working on. Last solicitation, we had submitted a proposal, application for Naugatuck to be part of their greenway heading from downtown toward the Waterbury town line. One in Seymour was submitted along between 67 and Toby's Pond. And so, the one in Thomaston was also submitted that actually got awarded, but we're having problems with figuring out the local match. And that's the other thing I should note. This does require a 20% non-federal share or local match, which can be a little bit problematic for a lot of communities. So, just
Is there a funding cap?
No. Well, yes, because the funding is sub-allocated by region. I forget exactly what the Bridgeport Stanford urban area cap is like. Oh, I can't
Hartford is 12.
Bridgeport is probably 8, 9.
I can pull it up here.
So that sort of is the cap, because we can't go above what's being allocated by the federal program. We're trying to get a better understanding from DOT.
Yeah, so Hartford is 12.5. Bridgeport Stamford is 11 million. New Haven, which in our area is Cheshire, is 7 million. And then the other urbanized areas, which is the Waterbury urban area, is 7 million total, which includes Waterbury, Danbury, and New London.
So that's but this is money that's sub-allocated to urbanized areas. There's still 41% of the total allocation of the state that can go anywhere in the state. We're trying to working with DOT to figure out how that anywhere money gets allocated to a project. So there could be some additional money beyond those numbers, but, in terms of a cap, I mean, we're looking probably at something $2.5, $3 million as sort of a max because of, there's a lot of projects and, kind of limited money. And just as an aside, we did put in for a raise grant to do design activities for sections of the Naugatuck River Greenway between Naugatuck and Thomaston. Hopefully we'll know sometime mid-June whether that gets, was awarded or not, because if that does, then it might give some of, to use TA to the construction, because design will be done during a different program.
Transportation set aside, is that program design money, is that construction money?
Well, it's all three phases. You can do design, rights of way, and construction. So yeah, all three phases of the project are eligible for the program.
Mark, Watertown funded the Steelbrook Greenway section with TA last year too.
I always forget about Steelbrook.
Yeah.
And again, a continuation of that project would be a good, application for this next round of TA, because we'd be continuing an ongoing project.
We talk about bicycling a lot. Are there any gaps in the local network that could or should be addressed?
Yes. Short answer, yes. We are working on a regional active transportation plan, which includes a regional bike plan. And that is intended to identify, bike facility needs and where there are gaps. Because again, bicycling is not just on, trails, it's also on roads. And so we're going to be looking at, what needs to be done to sort of create a bicycle network throughout the region, primarily on roads, and how we can connect everything. But again, like I said, the dates to keep in mind is that April 26th, we want to get some ideas so we can start evaluating, and then you have to be ready to submit the application in the end of June.
Is this limited to municipalities or can Congo apply on its own?
No, municipalities. I don't believe the MPO is a eligible entity. It's just a municipality, which is also an interest because the state DOT can't apply for money. So it's basically, for local municipalities to use. Obviously, we can work with everybody. We just can't be the applicant. And it raises an interesting question. Can two towns come together and do a joint application? Yes, but one municipality has to be identified as the lead and be the sort of fiduciary and be responsible for the application. Again, Watertown and Waterbury, if you want to do something right at the town line, it made sense, and you had logical termini, which I hate. But if it made sense to do, across the town boundaries, yeah, you can go in on it together, but one of the towns would have to be the lead.
Okay, and then in the city share would be 20%.
Which we're trying to change.
Yes. Any comments, additional comments? If not, automated traffic enhancement safety devices?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last June, the state government enacted Public Act 23-116, which was an act implementing the recommendations of the Vision Zero Council. A key important component of that act approved the deployment of automatic traffic enforcement safety devices, ATSDs, in municipalities subject to guidelines, which will be communicated by the state. These guidelines came out in the last quarter, and a key component of those guidelines state that any municipality that wants to implement an ATSD has to submit for approval an ATESD plan. And that ATSD plan has to take consideration of the number of fatalities that have happened along the corridor where the device is planned to be deployed, as well as daily traffic, history of traffic stops that have been conducted in that municipality and reported to OPM under the Racial Profiling Prohibition Act. And then look at the municipality's poverty rate and then the percentage of occupied housing units with vehicles as determined by the US Census Bureau's ACS survey. And then the locations, roadway geometry. So these are some of the things that are expected to be in an ATSD. We, as NVCOG, want to encourage our municipalities to take a look at the possibility of implementing ATSDs in our municipalities, especially in those places where there have been serious injuries and fatalities. We have adopted a goal for Vision Zero, and a key component of achieving that goal is the deployment of ATSDs. It has, for those municipalities that have achieved their Vision Zero targets, deployment of ATSDs has played a key component, component in achieving Vision Zero. So we want our municipalities to favorably look at this option, to consider it and see how we could go about it together. Our staff are available to assist you in putting up an ATSD plan or looking at the benefits of an ATSD at any location or conducting public engagement in your municipalities. So we strongly encourage you to take advantage of the resources available in NVCOG to see how we can together achieve our Vision Zero targets. Thank you very much.
Are you saying that the plan consists of like sets the criteria before you propose one, or is a plan associated with a specific location in mind?
Yes, it's a plan associated with where you want to deploy.
Yeah, so every town has to develop a plan with
Right.
all the location related data to those locations, and that plan is good for 3 years from when it's accepted by CONDOT. And so it's constantly being updated.
Do you have a sample plan that has been approved?
There hasn't been one yet. New Haven is probably closest. There's about a half dozen towns and cities that have committed to it so far and are underway working on it. But none of them have been submitted to OSTA at this point.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so most towns that are pursuing this are doing so in pretty close coordination with their police departments. Police departments are the ones who ultimately still have to review and will be the ones issuing the tickets, so.
I'm wondering if a municipality had interest, maybe you could even give meet with the police department, give a presentation to the police department or something like that, right?
Yeah, the only city in our region we know of that is actively pursuing this is Butterberry, and we've been working closely with their police department about it.
Do you know if the notification is going out to the LTAs?
I believe that's a good question. I know it went to the CEOs. I don't recall if it went to LTAs. Do you remember, Jane, when that letter went out way back when the guidance first came out? Was that sent to LTAs too?
I can double check. I remember the CEO.
If it hasn't, we have a memo that we can send right after this meeting.
Yeah, I would suggest you notify the LTAs.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I would say Bristol, we had a fatality a couple of weeks ago. So it was a gentleman known, to the community because he was actually on our disability commission, and he was in a wheelchair and he got hit at a intersection. It was a signalized intersection, but it was a side street to Route 69, West Street, and then got killed.
We are on track for a similar performance to last year, which was an improvement over the year prior, but among the worst years Connecticut has had in decades for traffic fatalities.
So this accident, this fatality happened within a crosswalk. She was, the driver was texting.
Yeah.
What was she doing?
Texting. Any questions or comments? If not, moving on, active transportation plan.
Yeah, so Elliot is not going to join us this morning, so just a quick update. We have a draft of an existing conditions plan that, or excuse me, an existing conditions section of the plan that has gone out to the project advisory committee members. Once they've made any comments, we'll get it out to this group as well. We've started meeting with or attending city council meetings to inform full city councils or boards that this is underway. And we hope to have something for you at the next meeting, a copy of that existing conditions and kind of a broader fact sheet.
Any questions, comments? If not, a BTD two, go.
Yeah, just to inform, CONDOT last year announced a micro transit pilot project, which was going to allow transit districts across the state to operate micro transit programs. So effectively demand response, open to everybody, a limited service area, but otherwise Kevin's been calling it government Uber. And so the Valley Transit District was one of those services selected, and they are operating what they're calling VTD to go from 5:30 to 11:30 p.m. Monday through Friday in Derby, Ansonia, and Shelton. It's a great service. We're very excited to see it underway. We're hoping it gives us some good data and some good results that we can then expand these types of services into more of the areas around the state that don't have regular fixed route transit. But we think it offers a lot of potential to be a transit option for a good chunk of the state.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? ADA transit plans?
Yeah, and so again, we've mentioned this a couple of times, but out of last year's ADA survey, the most common request was technical assistance from towns. And so the department has put together a program that they're going to be hiring a consultant who will actually assist in developing ADA transition plans only for the public right of way for towns and cities across the state. We are going to be the first region to have this done. It was recently added into the TIP, so there's funding available. There's a rough timeline for when that funding is available, and I believe that the department is in the process right now of putting out the RFQ for a consultant. Once someone is on board, we'll have more information about what it actually is going to entail from the towns in terms of getting these plans done. It is technically optional, but every town must have an ADA transition plan, and so we highly encourage every town to take advantage of this. Free work is about as good as it gets. So we're excited for it. We think it's a really good opportunity for our communities, and hopefully we'll have some more concrete timelines and asks for assistance from the towns in the next or by the next TTAC meeting.
I'm sorry, I had to step out through the chair.
Yeah.
Did the DOT ever address the building access thing?
They are not going to be allowed to use federal highway money on municipally owned buildings. And so that piece will still be the responsibility of individual towns to do. This is going to look just at the public right of way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for Bristol, we do have one. Honestly, it seemed like maybe 6 months ago, DOT was very hot, on it. And like I said, the value of it, for us, I think ours costs, we had ours done by a consultant, happened to be a beta, and it cost us like 30 grand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so every town has to have one that, basically is the same thing that you put together. And so for anybody who doesn't have one currently, and all 19 towns in our region are required to have one. It's for municipalities with 50 or more employees, but based on the way the Department of Labor looks at school districts, police departments, all the various entities under a town, there are 2 towns in Connecticut that are exempt, and neither of them are within our region.
Any questions or comments? Next, a bus stop enhancement program.
Yes, so this is a new project that Connecticut DOT is doing. They want to enhance bus stops around the entire state, including our region. So I included a link here to QR code, and we can send out the link again after the meeting. But this is a survey that Connecticut DOT has posted, where basically you, as a municipality, will submit any locations that you want to have your bus stops enhanced, and then it'll ask you various questions, what kind of features you're interested in what locations, and things like that. So if you need any help with the survey or with the bus stop enhancement program, you can talk to us, and of course, talk to Connecticut DOT and can help you through this.
I guess what's the time frame, on this?
I don't know if do you know the timeframe offhand, Rich?
It's pretty open. It's gonna be
Yeah.
over the course of several years. And so again, the sooner you can make requests, the better. I assume they'll be prioritizing at least a little bit on a, first in, first out basis. But installation of these will happen likely over the next 4 or 5 years.
Do you know how much, I'm sorry.
And once again, this isn't necessarily, Bristol based, but this is a hot topic, for us. We even have a transportation committee. I'll talk to you offline. Maybe you can even go to that or,
Be happy to.
Presentation, but this is for both enhancements of existing ones and potentially replacement of new ones.
Yeah, so it is bus stop enhancement, and it includes things like, adding signs where there are bad signs or adding new signs and poles. It can add seating, it can add shelters, it can add lighting and trash cans and other amenities, and every site can be different. So if you have a site that has nothing, you can add stuff to it. If you have a site that is, fully equipped but in bad shape, it can replace what's already there.
And this may be a unique thing for us. Quite frankly, we do get complaints on bus, shelters. The complaints the 2 locations we always get complaints on now for the last number of years are 2 bus shelters that actually aren't on part of the public transportation, system. So I assume that has nothing whatsoever to do with this program.
If they're not serviced by CT Transit or a public entity, then no.
Is it like Northeast Transportation weighed in on this?
So the way this survey is working, the transit districts will get the first right to make requests. And so in your case, it would have gone to Northeast Transportation.
Right.
We haven't heard yet if they've made any requests or what requests they plan on making, but we'll try and find out.
How much money is there?
20 million. So they estimate about 1,000 sites will get upgraded under this first round of the program. And that's out of just about 14,000 bus stops across the state.
So you'd go to the bus stop and have this and enter in the deficiencies for that bus stop?
So this is based on the way the request is made. You choose which amenities you want, and then you choose all of the locations that you want those same amenities for. So if you want every bus shelter or every bus stop in town to look exactly the same, you have to submit the survey once with all the locations. If you want 100 different arrangements of amenities, you have to submit the survey 100 times.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions? If not, Connecticut statewide resiliency improvement plan?
Yeah, so the state of Connecticut recently won a resiliency grant from the federal government. This is really to make the state roadways more resilient around the entire state. So the Connecticut DOT has solicited, DOT has hired TTAC, which solicited us to look for locations along state routes that may have resilience issues, mainly flooding. So we were asking all of you, if you have any locations along state routes that experience particular flooding or any other resilience problems, please reach out to us. There is a map online that we have been provided where we can input these locations and get them input into the state's plan.
And the maps on the NVCOG website?
I don't know if the municipalities have access to it. They were given to us, but you can, if you send us the locations, we can get them into the map.
And would this be, like grant money for design and construction?
This money that the state will be handling, from what I know. This is for only state routes.
This is part of Protect, right?
Yeah, I believe this is the Protect formula funds.
Okay.
And so under Protect which is the new federal program, there's 2 sets of money. There's discretionary funding, for which NVCOG did apply in partnership with a couple of the other COGs that are non-coastal. The state also applied for for discretionary funds under Protect to do a hurricane evacuation plan along the coast. But there's formula funds that go to the state DOTs to develop resiliency plans, which look at the biggest issues, the biggest resiliency issues, particularly in our case, flooding, and then develop a plan to address those over time. I don't believe at this point that it includes funding for construction, just to develop the plan for which sites are most important.
Thank you.
You know, and as Rich briefly mentioned, we did apply for Protect discretionary regional level. And the intent is because the state program is looking at only state roads, our program would look at all the local roads, where actually I think the flooding issues are more critical, is, you know, the local roads are closer to rivers and streams that, you know, maybe the culverts and bridges are more undersized on the local road, so I haven't heard. We applied, we submitted that almost
9 months ago.
9 months ago?
Yep.
But anyhow, the idea is that if we can get that money, we'll address and look at the local roads. So, you know, stay tuned. This may not be the end of it.
And we'll be consulting the hazard mitigation plan that's already been made to look for any locations that are on state routes inputting it into the map. But again, if you have any flooding areas or any other resilience issues on state routes, please let us know.
Any questions? If not, legislative update?
Yeah, so Drew couldn't be here this morning either. He sent me a long list of items that are coming out of Hartford in this session that are relevant to you, but for the sake of time, I'm going to send that as an email to all of you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any specific questions regarding legislative acts? If not, item number 4, environmental planning, Aaron.
So back to resilience. So if you'll all recall, in November of 2022, we submitted an application to a new program through DEP called the Climate Resilience Fund. And our project that we submitted would advance culvert and drainage projects in 9 of our communities. So the project would hire a consultant to develop preliminary engineering plans for flood resilience projects that were previously identified in municipalities' plans. Mostly hazard mitigation plans or road stream crossing inventories. So, you know, the consultant will be developing preliminary plans for those, cost estimates, and also helping towns identify federal and state funding for implementation and help author narratives for grant applications. So DEEP announced last summer that we'd be receiving $689,000 for the project. And I'm happy to announce that we finally, on Monday, have a executed contract with DEEP. So we have a 15-month timeline for the project, so we really want to get underway as soon as possible. We have an RFP pretty much ready to go, drafted at least, that we plan to issue next week to our engineering shortlist. So right now we're looking for volunteers to serve on a selection committee. I'm thinking it's going to be we're going to make it as painless as possible, you know, probably, you know, looking over applications, scoring them, having a meeting to make a selection, and possibly, if warranted, have some interviews with consultants. So, you know, reach out to me or Christine O'Neill in our office if anybody's interested. I think Christine sent out a notice yesterday, basically with the same information, but you know, we're happy to finally get this underway. And that's the list of projects that we identified. And we worked in 2022 with all of your communities to identify the ones that would fit under this program and made the most sense. So, you know, I think it's going to be complicated because there's 9 different communities that we're working with to do this. But, you know, I expect that the consultant's going to be working directly with your public works staff on a lot of this. So, you know, we look forward to that.
Do you anticipate one consultant, or are you gonna split it up?
Right now, we're issuing it as one project. When we talked, well, this is 3 years ago again. I don't know. A lot has changed since 2022, but you know, the consultants that we talked with to get cost estimates when we're developing our application all said they would rather see it as one project. So, you know, I know capacity is limited at some of these companies now, so I don't know if that's may have changed, but
for us to manage it too would be easier as one. But,
yeah.
And the 600, excuse me, the 689,000 for all 9.
Yeah. So there's just, you know, going out, assessing the sites, figuring out, you know, developing probably a short list of alternatives to you know, talk to the communities about. You know, I think what we don't want to see is, you know, replacement in kind on a lot of these culverts. You know, we want it, you know, we want to look at current and future rainfall estimates, look at fish and wildlife passage through these structures where that's important. And so, you know, that's really, I think that's what I sort of envision. So they'll do some, you know, some limited survey, you know, come up with a conceptual plan, come up with cost estimates, and have all the information that would be necessary to apply for like BRIC or, you know, some other federal mitigation funding, you know, possibly future state funding as well.
Any questions, comments? If not, the next item, Kinneytown Dam.
So I just want to give you all a quick update on Kinneytown. We're continuing to move ahead, even though we've had a few delays. You know, we just for refresher, our plan is for NVCOG and our partners at Save the Sound to remove the Kinneytown Dam hydroelectric facility. We did receive federal and state funding last year to get started on the project. Our plan is to have the Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank take ownership of the property while we work through the engineering and begin the deconstruction and decommissioning of the facility. So working through our due diligence for the land bank, we encountered this 3,000-foot earthen dam that impounds Coe Pond and is actually at a couple, you know, at one location, the crest of the dam is actually 20 feet above the rail, which is adjacent to it. We could find no record that it was ever inspected. It's certainly not been maintained in, you know, probably 100 years. So, you know, we raised the flags, you know, to DOT and to MTA and to DEEP and FERC that, you know, I don't think anybody realized that there was a, you know, a serious dam safety concern there. So you can see the southern half of the dam on the left is wooded, and there's, you know, 100-year-old trees along the crest of the dam. The crest is about 2 feet above the current water level. The picture on the right is from the northern section of that dam that is unvegetated and eroding, and it looks like it's probably been overtopped in the past. So, you know, we think this is a real concern. The land bank is certainly not willing to take on that type of liability in the short term. So we're working, you know, we actually hired a dam safety engineer to go out and do an inspection. That inspection report came out in March. We shared it with all of the communities. We shared it with all of the agencies, and right now, Deep Dam Safety and FERC are working with the dam owner to try to mitigate that risk in the short term, so that we can remove the dam and you know, remove that risk in the long term. So that's really the big delay. The land bank's not willing to take this property until this is resolved. So we'll see where that goes in the next couple of weeks or months.
Who's the dam owner?
So Kinneytown Hydro Incorporated owns the dam, and that entity is currently owned by Trimaran Energy, which is a basically single purpose entity. Like they purchased this to basically hold the liability away from the previous owner. So, you know, we're concerned that they don't really have any money. They're not going to be willing to, you know, invest in this in the short term. But, you know, we've made it clear to them that, you know, we can't do our project until we can take ownership and be comfortable with the type of liability. Like the land bank is, you know, used to taking liability when it's, you know, environmental or contamination related liability, but this is completely different. There's a serious risk to, you know, the safety of the rail if this thing should ever fail.
Now, this is just a question, because we actually had a similar, well, we had a dam, you know, we have a dam, you know, in Bristol, that there was a, you know, there is interest in removing, you know, quite frankly, that project, you know, dates back, you know, quite some time when they, the the entity that moved the ball forward the most was actually, Central Connecticut Planning, the precursor before Bristol, joined NVCOG. So in all fairness, that was a regional planning agency moving, actively working on it, almost like what you're doing, now. But when that transitioned, over, there was discussion about, Bristol, taking it on, but that made sense since it was, in Bristol, it's actually DOT property. Ultimately, it's on the Quabic, so which is a tributary to Farmington, so Farmington River Association, is carrying the ball, on that. And then actually there's some funding through Connecticut Deep, because Connecticut Deep themselves is now gonna pick up the ball. I guess all that in a nutshell is, I guess I can see NVCOG supporting an entity, but why is NVCOG like the main player? Who does own the ground? Where's the town on this?
So
like NVCOG's doing a lot of work, on.
yes, and well, so it's become a real regional priority. So the facility is actually in two towns, it's in Seymour and Ansonia.
Yeah.
Both of them are supportive of the project. I think we've become involved because, nobody else is gonna take this on in the amount of time that we think we can do it. If the state, if this was abandoned and the state ends up with it, which is what would happen, it could be a decade, before, this thing ever gets removed. And I think in that time period, there's, this is a, there's a community that's adjacent to this pond that is, an EJ community that, they have this, smelly, dangerous, canal in their neighborhood, in their backyards that, it's a mosquito breeding ground in the summer. So, I think everybody wants to see things move a lot faster than, the alternative would be. The owner, I think, and this is the last in sort of a string of owners that have tried to, milk as much profit out of the property as they could. Did no maintenance, didn't keep up the dam, didn't repair or improve anything. And as their equipment broke down, just, produced less and less electricity until now it doesn't, produce anything. And the cost of rehabbing it would be, probably tens of millions of dollars. And it doesn't, even on its best day, would never create enough electricity to warrant that type of investment. So, I think we've sort of taken it on because, like I said, nobody else is willing or able to do it. So we did receive $15 million last year from NOAA. Despite these delays, we're still moving along with a lot of the project. So the due diligence that we're still working on. We have a survey crew that's doing the property survey right now for the land bank. EPA, we've received funding through EPA Target Brownfield Assessment Program. They're going to be going out and doing the assessment of all the sediments behind the dams and of the soils on the property and all the buildings as well. And they should be out, probably in April. Save the Sound has a RFP out right now for the dam removal engineer, which will be a big project in itself. And then we're working on a separate project because there's 2 sewer lines in the sediment above the dam that are going to have to be removed or replaced before the dam can be removed. So we have separate funding for that, and we, NVCOG, are hiring an engineer now to do that work. So we are still moving along. It's been delayed. We're expecting that, hopefully the land bank will be able to close on this later this year. Once, they can figure out what to do with the water levels in Coe Pond.
There's no outlet structures to lower a few feet or batter boards to take out.
So that's what they're investigating right now.
Okay.
As far as we understand, there's no electricity going to the plant at the end of this. There were 3 electric gates that opened and closed that our engineer that we had out there was concerned, like if we open them up, all the water would go into this 4-bay and then it would go into the plant. The plant is open inside, so we'd have to figure out a way to close that all up. But the back wall the powerhouse would actually be, like the water would be up against the back wall. So they were concerned that, you know, structurally it wouldn't be able to, and it hasn't operated since 2010, that plant. So, there is a sort of a spillway, like a weir that can be lowered if, well, physically we'd have to go on there with equipment and lower that. And it'd be able to lower the water level by about 3 feet, which we think might be enough to, you know, ease the forces on the dam enough. And, you know, I think our biggest concern is that a tree is gonna come over and, you know, with a root ball and, you know, allow water through the crest of the dam, and then that's it. So we lower it 3 feet, you know, that risk might be significantly lowered.
Thank you.
So happy to answer any questions, but we are moving along. It's a big, complicated project though, so I'm sure we're gonna have some stumbling blocks along the way.
Any questions or comments? If not, next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
And you're opposed?
Thank you.